Tune into The Final Take with MK Mariner every Saturday on the Alcamba Times and experience extensive conversations on a variety of topics, including national and international headlines, breaking issues, and major developments in politics, business, innovation, science, and sports, along with inspiring stories and expert analysis to provide a comprehensive understanding of the news.
Hello and warm welcome to The Final Take with me, Seni Maren. Wherever you're watching, this is The Final Take. And today in the studio, live from Banjul, is Mr. Almame Fandin Tal, the founder, chairman, and executive director of the Kairaba Conservation and Leadership Organization, and also the spokesman of the Opposition United Democratic Party. Mr. Tal, welcome to The Final Take with me, Seni Marena. It's a pleasure having you for the first time on this show. You are on mute. Can you unmute your speaker, please?
Yes, I was saying thank you very much,
Mr. Almame Fandin Tal. Welcome to The Final Take.
Thank you very much. I'm very pleased to be part of your program, The Final Take, with Seni Marena for the first time.
Wonderful. It's a pleasure having you. I have been trying to get you on this show for many, many months or a year ago. And finally, I'm grateful that you find time. But before we go, we want to express our deepest condolence to our viewers and audience on the demise of one of our colleagues, Fatou Samba, the country director of Gambia Talent Promotion, who passed away this morning in Banjul. It's a very devastating news for the entire country because Fatou has been known as a very humble journalist, very passionate. You know, he's always, smiling, conducting interview with people from all walks of life. So we wake up to this sad news as a colleagues at the Alcamba Time. We extend our deepest condolence to the family and the staff and management of Gambia Talent Promotion, especially to his lovely husband, Pa Usman Juf. Our deepest condolence to the Juf family. May the gentle soul of our colleague Fatou Samba, who is known to be very passionate journalist, rest in perfect peace. That's a sad news from Banjul. Mr. Tal, that's the sad news from Banjul. So I say, let us pay a tribute to this lady, excuse me, before we commence our interview. Maybe you want to say something briefly. You might know Fatou. He's always covering the United Democratic Party programs and, events. Yeah.
You're absolutely right, Seni. I'm very, very sad to learn just about 2 hours ago that that's the time I learned that she passed. She was very dynamic. She was a very engaging reporter, and she covered all events across the board. I had the pleasure a couple of times to be her guest in their studios in Kanifing, and she has tremendous spirit. And she has worked very diligently to promote this Gambia Talent TV. And really, the media fraternity has suffered irreparable loss for such a very, very joyous, very dynamic journalist. And so soon, she was so young. Yeah. So full of life and so vibrant. So we pray for her soul to rest in peace and to pray for the husband and the rest of the family to have the fortitude to bear the grief. This is a very, very big blow to any family and to the whole Gambia as we forge ahead as a nation.
Yeah, absolutely. I am devastated. I have known Fatu for more than 15 years. I remember moments like 2011, ahead of the presidential election, we had the opportunity to be trained together by the Commonwealth team on election reporting at the university. And since then, I and Fatu have become very close friends and also colleagues. So this is a very devastating news, not to only her family, but to the entire media fraternity. So we pay our respect to her as, you know, the family and the colleagues mourn her sudden demise. So on that note, thank you very much, Almame Fandintal. For those watching, this is the final take with me, Seni Marena, from our virtual studios here in Seattle. So my guest today is Almame Fandintal, who is the chairman of the Dauda Kairaba Conservative Leadership Organization and also the spokesperson of the United Democratic Party. So we're going to talk about Dauda Kairaba's legacy and also some, you know, politics, because you can't talk about Dauda without politics. He's a man who introduced a multi-party democracy in the Gambia, and today, you know, his legacy lives on. So, Almame, welcome to the final take once again with me, Seni Marena.
Thank you very much, Seni.
Okay. As the founder of the Kairaba Conservation and Leadership Organization, named in honor of the former late President Sir Dauda Kairaba Jawara, how do you see his vision for a democratic and inclusive Gambia influencing the country's political landscape today?
I think his lessons and his style of leadership continues in various forms. Very recently, the political party that he led for so long, so well, has had a kind of a renaissance. Yeah. And I think the multi-party nature of the Gambia has been restored since 2017, coming now to 9 years. And we were very pleased that during his own lifetime, he saw the restoration of multi-party democracy. And we have recently seen pictures of you as a young reporter with Sadauda at the trade fair. So his vision lives in the national anthem, in institutions that have been built. And very recently, we were doing a forum on his philosophy of Tacito, which really meant self-reliance, because Gambia was considered an unviable nation state at independence. A lot of people thought that we could not make it as a sovereign democratic republic. But he was able to demonstrate to everybody and to the conviction of the Commonwealth, the UN, and all other African states that we can stand on our 2 feet and we can cherish democratic values and governance. And I think some of us who grew up post-independence and came of age and were able to go to university under his leadership clearly see the kind of legacy that he has left behind, because he was practicing democracy by example. His children, all of them, went for basic and secondary school in the Gambia. It is only when it's time for them to go to college that they would travel like anybody. His eldest son, Dauda Jawara Jr., studied in Nigeria. He didn't go to any fancy universities. He got his engineering degree from universities in Nigeria. Just to tell you that all his life and his leadership style was dedicated to making the Gambia into a viable democratic republic He was a very humble man. He was very honest. He had a lot of integrity. And after his departure from power unconstitutionally, he had had some very hard times until there was a new presidential post, what is it called? Past presidential law that gave him back his only property in Colombia.
Yeah.
And then he returned home to live out the rest of his days in quiet and peace. So his legacy really is something that every turn you take in the Gambia, you can see it, you can feel it, and even in the attitude of Gambians generally, this agreeableness, our agreeable nature, our peaceful nature, these are all, in our view, because of Sadauda's example to the Gambians and to the rest of Africa.
From your perspective as a legal scholar and a former judge, what aspect of his democratic framework remain relevant, and where do you see the gaps that need addressing?
During his presidency, precisely in the 80s, when the late illustrious Fafam Bai was Attorney General, there was a law reform commission. The late Fafam Bai, they passed this law reform commission act, and from the 80s towards the early 1990s, there were a serious efforts to modernize the court proceedings, to introduce modern legislation like the Environment Management Act, because of his vision about conservation, which for us is one of the unifying aspects of his legacy. Politically, some may disagree, some may think otherwise, but when it comes to the protection and care for the environment, I think Sadauda, just like King Charles of England, was ahead of his time. In the 70s, he talked about conservation. So one of the lasting legacies, really, in my humble opinion, is the enactment of the Environment Management Act, because it was not about only protection, but it was creating reserves and gazetted areas where you would have environmental protection, but at the same time, communities can make their living out of such an environment. Of course, the most important, significant legacy of Sadauda is to host the African Commission on Human and People's Rights. This is the continent-wide body that has been valorizing human rights and respect for the rule of law.
Protection and promotion of human rights, yeah.
Yes, so it is sometimes even called the Banjul Charter. That was also at a time when Africa was really in crisis. Almost 80 to 90% of the African states were under military rule or under colonial rule or, under apartheid. So it was at a very difficult time, and Sadauda was able to step up and say that we must create this space for democratic governance. We must ensure that human rights and the rule of law are respected by all nations. Of course, he was also the consummate diplomat, and he was involved in diplomacy missions famously across the world, famously the Iran-Iraq conflict. He was an envoy of the OIC, which was hosted in the Gambia last year in his centenary year. And other peace mission, obviously, is the ECOMIC and the ECOMOG forces that help Liberia and Sierra Leone live through their civil wars of the late 80s and early 1990s. So the legacy is considerable, and the law books are filled with his examples of a tolerant and inclusive democratic government. You will remember the likes of Tix Mane, Hassan Mane, the investigative journalist, took the then Minister of Agriculture, who subsequently became the Vice President, Mr. Sekou Sabali, to court, and there was no interference with the way the judiciary was working, and Justice Grant was able to actually find in favor of Mr. Mane's allegation that there was no defamation. And that was fair journalism, fair reporting,
and that was a landmark. That was a landmark history in the media freedom in the country. Dr. Alma Metal, we have a lot of discussions about South Dauda, but let's go to his conservation and leadership. South Dauda was the architect of the Banjul Declaration, where he's very committed to environmental protection, the flora and the fauna. You know it better. So, looking at South Dauda's legacy and what prevails right now in the country, we have seen a severe assault on our forest cover, environmental degradation across the coastal areas. What is the organization doing to address this in order to preserve South Dauda's legacy in his fight to restore our flora and fauna?
Indeed, we think that fundamentally what we need is a mindset change from the very top to the grassroots and the communities. We think that some of the actions that are going on in communities, especially coastal communities, and in the remaining forested areas, is born out of lack of foresight, and to some extent because of ignorance. Because what the Banjul Declaration was saying was that we need to care for the environment. If we take care of the environment will in turn provide for us our basic necessities. So it's a question of management, and it's a question of making the right investment and harvesting at the right time. Because now a lot of people are talking about agroecology. Your agriculture should be able to help the ecological status. So when the declaration was made in 1977, there were other pieces of legislation that were made. But it was not until 1994. In fact, the last piece of legislation South Dauda signed into law was this Environment Management Act, where a council, an Environmental Protection Council, to be chaired by the president was established. Unfortunately, after the unconstitutional change of government, there wasn't any meeting until 2017, when President Barrow was elected as president. That is when the Environment Ministry started convening that council meeting. The council is meant to bring home the priority of protecting the environment. So in terms of what Kairaklo is doing, we are trying to create as much awareness as possible. We are trying also to make sure that we have genuine partnerships between the public and the private interests that are involved in the management of the environment. Ultimately, we are hoping that we can establish the South Dauda Kairaba Jawara Climate Justice Center at the University of the Gambia, at the UTG, that would be informing and advising on the policy aspects that are necessary, because the environmental challenges have gone beyond our borders. Some of the environmental challenges have come from our neighboring countries. When you talk about sand mining, when you talk about these natural resources exploitations, if we are not careful, we will not have any more sand left to mine or to build our houses. This degradation is going to make things even worse, because Gambia is a low-lying state. is a very flat state, and we are at risk of sea level rise, and that can take over all our land, in one sweep. So the important thing for us is to raise the awareness of policymakers, to raise the awareness of the authorities that issue licenses for these kind of things, so that as a community, we are responsibly and sustainably exploiting the natural environment. Because we have seen that there are quite a number of environmental activist organizations, and they are doing a really fine job. Yeah, but also we should endeavor to have solutions, how we can collaboratively and how we can jointly come up with solutions that are sustainable. The global framework of the SDGs will expire in 5 years' time. In 2030, this agenda is a very good global agenda. It's talking about transitions to cleaner and greener energy. It's talking about creating green jobs. All of these are things that if the community and if the government gets the solutions from fellow Gambians, fellow Africans, I think it could remedy the situation. We can have agreements and understandings with the Republic of Senegal, a much bigger country, where some of these resources traditionally used to come from, especially like the basalt and other construction material. But our focus really is on the opportunities that partnership can create and how we can raise awareness about protecting the environment, especially from a public law point of view.
Absolutely. Mr. Tal, because Sir Dauda is a person who is very dedicated to conserving our environment. And trust me, he wouldn't be happy, right now, of what is going on in the Gambia with regards to, an assault on our environment. Over the past few years, we have seen that the country is facing threats of losing our forest cover to either real estate operators or to businesses like, mining in the coastal areas. What efforts are you going to do in order to change, to work with the government to change the policies on these environmental issues that the country is facing? You mentioned that there is a lot of environmental organizations who are fighting to protect the environment, but they are facing a stiff challenge from the very people who are supposed to help them, protect the environment, are the same people who are destroying the environment. How can you change this tide, looking at Sir Dauda as a former head of state who is very committed in this cause?
Yes, and he has given us the blueprint, he has given us the vision. What remains, Seni, is that we that are living have a responsibility to take that vision and put it into action, i.e., all these areas belong to the Gambian people at large. Secondly, these people are represented in the parliament by elected members. So the effort is to inform lawmakers, policymakers, that globally we have obligations, but nationally we have our first president's vision as a guide so that we can take care of our environment better. Nobody is saying that you shouldn't exploit your environment for your present needs, but you must also remember the needs of the coming generations. But we also are engulfed, as we speak, in a global crisis. There is a global environmental crisis, and the whole world is getting up to try and find solutions. So solutions in terms of building materials, solutions in terms of energy generation, all of these are things that are within these discussions. It's a question of how do we as a nation position ourselves so that we can attract some of these resources without destroying our own environment as a question of justice. And I hope that when we establish the Climate Justice Center in the name of Sadauda, we would be able to engage globally all the stakeholders in this process. Because yes, laws can do something, but the communities must also, on a tacit basis, safeguard against the excessive exploitation of their natural resources. So considerable effort has to get into this, and a dialogue, a forum, a consultation, society-wide, nationwide, because whether we like it or not, it's my brother or it's my uncle who is building the house when the son is taken out of that place, or it's my sister's husband, like that. It is the community that is making the demand. So if we are not strategic about this exploitation, we will end up having a very destroyed environment. We will not be in harmony with nature. But the activism must go on. It can stop certain things, but we need a holistic and a comprehensive vision that can put us in harmony with nature and ensure that our institutions are designed in such a way that these conflicts can be avoided based on the vision that Sadauda has left us with.
Absolutely. Many thanks for that brilliant answers, Mr. Tal. Let's look at the challenges to Sadauda's legacy. Sadauda leadership faced challenges, including the 1994 coup. How do you assess the long-term impact of such events on his legacy, and what lessons can the current political leaders draw from his resilience?
The lessons are really very sobering and quite devastating. I must also say that Sadauda is not without fault as a leader. There is no leader who can claim that, oh, I have not made mistakes. I think if you look at the entirety of his legacy, it would be clear that he may have overstayed his time. Yeah. He should have done what Senghor did in Senegal, and further afield what Nyerere did in Tanzania, even further afield what Lee Kuan Yew did in Singapore. Because after 30 years at the helm, really it was time for him to go. But being a Democrat, being a reasonable leader, when he said he wanted to go, his people said, no, it's not time for you to go. He should have resisted that call, and he won an election fair and square in '92. That was his last election. But I think at that Congress they had in Mansakonko, he should have left. Nonetheless, when 1994 happened, some of us were away in university because of the kind of leadership, high quality leadership. We could go to any university, as long as we have the good grades. So we were away studying in universities, and we received the message in a very, very sad state of affairs, because that was the second year when Ghana had already returned to democratic government after decades of military leadership. Military rule for 2 years, and thereafter for 20 years, a militaristic culture really ate away at the foundation of a very pluralistic, a very democratic society, where even in high school you could criticize the government. Even in those days, students would do protests, and there wouldn't be any any heavy hand on them. Of course, the police will come out and maybe give them some beating. But it was only during the Jammeh era that, live guns were fired on student protesters in 2000. And then you have the whole horror story that the commission, the TRRC commission, the Janet commission unearthed, the kind of mendacity, the kind of rapaciousness, the kind of wickedness that Gambians were exposed to under this Jammeh rule. Really, I think, disoriented and traumatized a lot of Gambians. Those of us who were of age during Sadauda's time definitely could not recognize our country. We had, this dumbing down and this mean-spiritedness that is coming from the leader who was, notorious for trying to scare people. And he was a tribalist to boot. He introduced that kind of politics, and that gutter politics, I'm sad to say, still is remaining with us. So really,
absolutely.
I mean,
thank you very much,
the impact
Mr.
of
Tal.
22 years. Yeah. I think the impact of 22 years of authoritarian rule, yes, is something that Gambians are still coming to terms with.
Absolutely. That's Almame Tal, the chairman of the Kairaba Conservative and Leadership Organization. Mr. Tal, we will shift the gears to politics, because we cannot talk about Sadauda without involving politics, because he's a politician, he's a medical doctor, he's a veterinarian, you can name it. So we'll take a quick break, and then when we come, we will go ahead.
No, I said it seems the network is unstable on my side.
Yes, 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 but we can hear you clearly. So we will take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll explore the state of opposition parties in the Gambia ahead of 2026. Stay tuned. Welcome back wherever you are joining us. This is the final take with me, Seni Marina. In the studio today is Mr. Almame Fandin Tal, the chairman of the Kairaba Conservative and Leadership Organization, and also the spokesperson of the biggest political party in the country. Many people said Mr. Tal has gone so quiet over the past couple of months, and he has always been on the forefront propagating the ideas of the party he believed in. You are not wearing the Sadauda cap here. We are talking about opposition politics. Mr. Sal, why going into hibernation for a couple of months? A lot of people are saying, are you still with the opposition United Democratic Party?
I am still a member of the United Democratic Party. And I have not gone into hibernation. I know a lot of people haven't had me on interviews for the UDP. But like we were talking earlier, last year actually was the centenary of Sadauda. And we established Kairaklo in 2022.
Yeah.
And upon the establishment of it, we felt that it would be necessary for some of us to take a backseat to partisan politics, not because of any reason, but in honor and in respect of the Sadauda project. Because we were hoping that the centenary would be a very good time to reflect on Sadauda's considerable legacy. And it is extremely important for me to emphasize this, that the Kairaba legacy, we are claiming it on the basis of the ideas and the intellectual passion that animated them. So we consider ourselves the intellectual heirs of Sadauda. We are not glorifying or valorizing his politics, but facets of his leadership, example in conservation, in human rights and the rule of law. And if you are doing that, it would be technically difficult to convince everybody that this is a non-partisan, non-political, non-denominational organization. If you are going on one day, you are saying, very passionately what Sadauda stood for, and then in the next minute you are wearing your party politics cap. So that I'm trying to avoid that confusion, so that whenever I talk on the Sadauda legacy, it should be seen in that light that this is another form of national service. We were expecting that there would be a lot of acclaim and applause in the centenary year, which was last year. We were able to do a few things. We were able to get the memorial lecture up and running. It's a lecture series, and we were very fortunate to get the current president of the ECOWAS Commission, Dr. Omar Ali Toure, yes, to give the inaugural lecture. So it is in that spirit. That is why my presence on the front line. But I think the UDP has a deep enough bench to provide information to the Gambian people on a regular basis, without it being always one person, one face. I think there is a diversity of personalities and talent that can, as much as possible, represent the same set of information. People have told me openly, but we don't hear you anymore. We don't see you anymore. But I said, you hear UDP.
There were instances, Mr. Tal, there were instances the rumor was so wild that, Al-Mahmed Fandin Tal, a well-known spokesperson, I would call you a spin doctor of the UDP, it has resigned. But later on, local media report like the Standard, quoted you and said you still a member of the United Democratic Party. So that's why when I talked to you about this interview, you were like, I was like, yeah, this is an opportunity to also clear the air, because a lot of people want to hear from you, what is actually going on. But I'm glad that, you are making that position very clear. But don't you think that it's going to be a conflict of interest to resign and to focus on one organization, because operating both organizations and holding key, a position can be conflicted? Are you thinking of resigning, or taking the back seat? Is the party aware of your position, and the current work you are doing for the Kairaba Center?
Oh yes, the party is fully in the picture as far as the effort we are putting in the Kairaba legacy projects, and I think even the government agencies, ministries, I mean, a lot of people are aware, and like you pointed out, the appearance of conflict of interest, I have to say this is freedom of association. Every Gambian is welcome to join this. We now realize that if we don't do it, I'm not saying that it would not be done, but we are very grateful that Lady Chilel and the rest of the family of Sadauda really appreciate our efforts and believe exactly that this is as a non-partisan, is a non-political organization. The effort is to make sure that the legacy and the memory of Sadauda doesn't evaporate so quickly after his passing. So really, I don't ascribe to this idea that if we are not in the same political party, we cannot also do something, collaborate in the public interest outside of a political remit. So really, this effort to salvage the legacy of Sadauda is important enough to some of us because we had our education, we had our university education free. Our parents were not educated as some were lucky to have educated parents. So I personally feel that we owe it to the coming generation to remind them that there was a leadership that was more meritocratic, was focused on building a cohesive and a united Gambia, Gambia for all. And we should not forget that legacy. Yes, the future may be very challenging, may be very different. But if we are able to draw from these valuable and timeless lessons, I think it would make a difference in the final analysis. So I don't see any conflict, or I don't see any occasion where the work we are doing also is pro bono. We are doing it at our own expense and our own cost. Of course, some people are helping us. Some organizations are donating for our events and our activities, but none of us in the board of trustees are drawing any material or financial benefit, apart from a lot of work, good work, we hope, that future generation may be able to enjoy and cherish.
Okay, Almame, before I take you deep into opposition politics, ECOWAS, celebrate 50 years of independence, kind of 50 years since its formation, and Sadauda was among the people who established the ECOWAS, and then he also played a role in the Organization of African Unity, which is now AU. So, are you aware of this celebration? Did the ECOWAS send a formal invitation to the Jaura family to attend this? Because why I say so, the former Nigerian president, General Gowon, was the last surviving founding member of the ECOWAS, and he was present at that event in Abuja, Nigeria. Did the ECOWAS extend invitation to this the Jaura family to be part of it in respect of his contribution to the establishment of ECOWAS?
Well, two things. If Sadauda was alive, I'm sure they would have invited him. They would have extended the invitation to him. But General Gowon is alive. And was among the only living. Yeah, he's the last surviving founder, and that is entirely proper, because let us also remember that the president and the family of the president are not the same thing. But ECOWAS, to their credit, in 2022 gave him a posthumous award recognizing his contribution to regional integration and peace. So it is the persons who were there, and the only person who was there and alive is General Gowon, who is very advanced in age now, and I think the honor is entirely fitting. But the only honor that was given to a family of a head of state was Sadauda's. So that I think that tells a lot about his contribution and how much it is valued in ECOWAS. I think that was a wonderful gesture on the part of ECOWAS. And I think also some of the ideas, because I think in terms of our size, we are not that big of a country or an economy, but the ideas we have contributed in terms of regional integration and in terms of peacekeeping and peace building, I think should be recognized, not only for Sadauda, but for our country. Kind of a peace center should also be recognized in the Gambia, or something along those lines on conservation. There is this great green wall project. These are all parts of the, yes, they are all part of the legacy that Gambians can claim. But I think our foreign policy must now really engage with the ECOWAS in the golden, in the golden jubilee year. Already there are some economic forces in the Gambia, and the preciousness of peace is something that I think if you look at the legacies of all the leaders in West Africa, Sadauda probably has the highest record of peace building, peacemaking, and for that reason, an institution dealing with peace and security, with conservation and development. These are the kind of institutions that Gambia should try through its foreign policies and its regional integration ministry to make it an ECOWAS-wide effort. I think those are the kind of things that we can convince ECOWAS with, and I'm sure the heads of government of the members of state would not hesitate to make Gambia a kind of a peace harbor in our sub-region, because we have demonstrated over a 50-year period to have the highest number of ECOWAS citizens per capita living in peace here and building prosperous businesses, and no xenophobic attacks, no attacks whatsoever. Even though we are surrounded principally by Senegal, we have a lot of other ECOWAS citizens living here.
Yeah, absolutely. Many thanks for that. Still into politics, and Gambia gear up to 2026 presidential elections in a year time, How is the UDP positioning itself to address the challenges facing the Gambia as the country march into election year?
Doing every strategic move that is expected at this time. But we also want to just emphasize one thing for the media. From Banjul to Mansa Konko, it is a UDP-led local government.
Right.
And if you look at that space, the kind of developments that are happening there, the kind of service our local government leaders from Banjul, KMC, West Coast region, and Lower River region. We have proven that a new generation of leaders have emerged from the UDP, and they are contributing to the development of their municipalities and their regions in a way that has been unprecedented in Gambian politics. I think the 22 years we just mentioned, all the municipal governments except for Banjul were under the APRC government. This time around, we have two terms of leadership, if you like, in this. If not half of the Gambia, a little over half of the Gambia, and the works of UDP leaders manifest and they are seen. So, in terms of preparation, we also want to draw attention to some of those successes and the need for a new kind of politics that is based on performance. What have they done in local government, for example? And who are the people? It's not one person who is going to bring about the transformational change that Gambians are yearning for.
Okay. You talk about a lot of improvements that is unprecedented in these opposition mayors and chairpersons. Is the UDP going to leverage on this youthful population to lead the party into elections?
Oh, definitely. The organizing secretary of the party is one of the mayors that I mentioned, the mayor of KMC. The mayor of Banjul is the first is the second vice president of the party at national level. Mr. Sane and Mr. Dabo, Yankuba, and Nanding, they are all members of the executive, and they all have very important national responsibilities as part of the organizing committee. So the campaign and the ideas of the campaign and the energy of the campaign obviously is going to be with the more youthful wing of the party. And that is the way campaigns are run everywhere. Most importantly, UDP, as we all know, has a very broad base nationwide. We have constituency and ward bureaus, regional bureaus, and we are everywhere in the Gambia and have been for the last 30 years or so. So really, the grassroots work has been ongoing. The regional bureaus, the regional chairman, the women wing, the youth wing, all of them have their set programs and they are engaged in doing their work. Yeah, so really, come 2026, we are in a very good position to change the discourse, change the dialogue, and convince Gambians to vote for UDP.
Absolutely. The Gambia's opposition has historically struggled with fragmentation. Drawing on your experience in leadership role, what strategies do you believe are essential for opposition parties to unite and present a strong front in 2026?
It is important to have a clear vision and to articulate it. But most importantly, in electoral politics everywhere, is always a numbers game. And I have just explained to you that in 4 out of the 8 regions, UDP is leading there as the politically elected majority. So that alone is a basis to hope that at central government level, UDP can really make a difference. But not only that, our grassroots are very well mobilized. Our structures are very functional, and they have autonomy of action. They have been doing things that some of us in the executive are not even aware of at their grassroots level. So a clear vision, a mobilized grassroots, and an enthusiastic and leaderful executive are all doing everything that is necessary to present, as we always do, a united front for the Gambians. And we are interested in finding common grounds with as many political parties as possible. We are hopeful that Gambians this time around would have seen the 2-term leaders that we have had in local government as a new generation of leaders who can make a real difference at national politics level.
Absolutely. The conversation is so interesting. I wish we could continue, but timing is 1 hour, and it seems from my clock we are left with 8 minutes. So I have a lot of questions for you, my friend, but I will try and excuse the last 2-3 questions I have for you. Many thanks for that brilliant answer once again, Mr. Tal. From your extensive work in trade, finance, rule of law, justice, and economic policies, what key issues do you think the opposition should prioritize to resonate with Gambian voters, particularly the youths, ahead of the election? Because most young people don't see themselves taking leadership roles in this political party. And then recently, we have seen young people coming together, to demand for accountability in the looted assets of the former president. That shows to you that young people are prepared to take the leadership role, even though parties are not willing to give them those leadership positions, but they are more organized now. So do you think that parties should, focus on youth leadership development and your experience? Do you think these issues should, occupy center stage in opposition camps?
I think this is a very important question because recently we have seen there is a fundamental shift in Senegal. A relatively young generation of leaders have come to power. and their coming to power is not because of any miracle. It's the people of Senegal. And I sometimes want to say this clearly, Seni. Every leader you have seen or heard about in the world was a leader when he was a young person. It's just that when we were getting independence, Sadauda was 41 years old in 1965.
Wow!
So he was young. Nkrumah was about 46 years old when he became the president. 42 years old when he became the president of Ghana. So you can look at the list. It's only recently that you have this unusual situation where leaders have stayed so long that people even forget that when they became leaders, like Museveni in Uganda, when they were becoming leaders, they were in their 30s, and now people are talking about Jamai Faye, President Jamai Faye, who is in his mid 40s. So really, this talk about youth, we should also look at it very pragmatically. The four mayors that I have mentioned, or leaders I have mentioned for you, Talib is not even 40. Rohi is in her 40s. Yankuba is not even 40. Landing, they are all relatively young. I'm just saying that as a party, I think we have a very large youthful party, and our base is also mobilizing and organizing to enable our young people to get the skills that they need in the 21st century to be successful. You hear all the time. Seni, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. I'm hearing you very well.
Okay. You see everywhere you go now, we're talking about AI and AI enable AI, the power it has to make our work across the board a lot easier. So, but we need the basic skills, the fundamental skills to create content. And this is what our young people in their schooling system, in their universities system, are not getting the opportunity to be prepared with. So the home of young people in politics is to acquire the skills and the technologies and the abilities to be able to manage complex situations. This is where it is important for every young person to find a political home for yourself. And I'm sure you would see this in the US, you will see it in the UK, even in high school, even at university, you have Republicans or conservatives or labor members from that early on. That involvement is necessary. However, we must also ensure that the kind of life skills that we give our children and the young people are in tune with the 21st century so that they can operate as citizens of the world. They can operate anywhere. They can be able to travel freely, go for university education, or go to work in other places, but they have the requisite skills, which I think our education system has, to a large extent, not nurtured to the level that it needs to be at.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Mr. Tal. And then we are almost at the tail end, so I have two more questions for you. But as I said, your work at the Kairaba Center and the UDP will give you more opportunity for me to interrogate you more in our subsequent interviews, because today you were like, Mr. Marina, I'm invited for Kairaba, so let's talk about Kairaba. I said, no, we can talk about both Kairaba and because Kairaba himself is a politician, is a visionary, and you see how they are interlinked. So I'm glad that, on a serious note, I'm glad that, we are having a very important conversation and our audience will find it very interesting because I see a lot of people watching it. So, vision for the future as a leader in both the Karabakh Conservation and the Leadership Organization and the UDP, how do you envisage blending Sir Dauda's legacy with modern governance strategies to shape the Gambia's future post 2026?
Yes, on both front, I think our commitment to excellence must be renewed. We must engage in self-examination, and we must ensure that the legacy that we have in terms of pluralism, in terms of multi-party democracy, but in terms of the civility and the peaceful disposition that Gambians have demonstrated all over the world. Your own native village has per capita perhaps the highest number of PhDs in Africa.
Yeah.
I mean, for a country our size to be able to boast of 2 Under-Secretary Generals of the United Nations, Justice Hassan B. Jallow and Abdoulaye Jane, these are very great achievements. And then you have a chief prosecutor, and all of them could be seen as part of Sir Dauda's legacy because of the kind of leadership he had provided. And we should be working hard at all these efforts to make sure that the country remains one united, but also is capable of producing high quality human resources. We can have many more Seni Marinas. We started our program on a very sad note of the young journalist's demise. But a few years ago, before you left town, Jaha Dukure, I think is Jaha.
No, Sisi Sawane.
Sisi Sawane. You know, so we have to understand that all of us are mortal, but whilst we are here, we must learn to live together in peace. But most importantly, we must live in harmony with nature. We must conserve the environment that we have, small as it is. We must try and regenerate the values that had helped our nation up to this point to stand up in the community of nations and be counted, be able to produce under Secretary Generals, ICC chief prosecutors, and other very distinguished sons and daughters. So the idea for the final take is to make sure that these kind of conversations are as broad and as wide-ranging as possible, and it cannot be a zero-sum game for us anymore. We must find that common ground where we can talk to each other as brothers and sisters and as one Gambian, free of tribal sentiment, free of class prejudices. It is extremely important in this 21st century to have a meritocratic credo, to have a fair and a just system of recognizing and rewarding talent and serving our nation ultimately.
Absolutely. Many thanks. And then finally, Mr. Almame, what's your message to Gambians? You know, you are working on a legacy, that is so powerful, a man who is very, very intelligent, a man who has introduced multi-party democracy in the country, a man who contributed to the formation of the then OAU, the Organization of African Unity, a man who used Banjul as a host of the top human rights body in Africa, the African Commission on People and Human Rights. Just last week, they ended their 81st session in Banjul. So Banjul has become a human rights capital, but because of dictatorship, we lost that that spot. But I think the country is moving back to reclaim those lost glories. What message do you have for Gambians in order for those who want to see Sir Dauda legacy flourishing in the area of human rights, in the area of environmental protection, in the area of rule of law and justice.
Yes, I'm so glad that we are having this last word on that, because we need to mainstream the legacy. We need to teach some of these lessons in schools. We must be able to abridge the biography, his autobiography, so that our children can read it as stories of great men that have lived in this country. Because the biography Kairaba has a lot of useful lessons for all ages. And the more we can mainstream it, so that everybody, you hear it regularly. In the past, he used to be on the currency of the Gambia. I think it's time that his face is restored on the currency, so that Gambia, especially children, would say, who is Dawda Jawara? Oh, he's no longer here, but he was our first president. So those kind of small gestures, I think, can be very transformational, so that when they go to school, from primary school to high school to university, they will live with his ideas. Because whatever we leave behind, the most important thing is the ideas of human solidarity, the ideas of Tacito, the ideas of not wasting your time or your resources in things that are going to divide our nation. What we need now is to be reminded of that legacy that has brought unity to our country for 60 years. After all, this is our Diamond Jubilee year. And I think it's a reflection of the character and the quality of leadership that he has bequeathed on our nation, that we are still trying and shining as much as possible all over the world, the democratic values and ideals that you mentioned, and especially the Banjul Charter and its abiding legacy for all Africans.
Absolutely. For those watching, this is the final take with me, Seni Marina. We are drawing the curtains here for today's event. But many thanks to my special guests. I call him Justice Almame Fandintal, the founder, chairman, and executive director of the Kairaba Conservation and Leadership Organization, and also the spokesperson of the United Democratic Party. But some said he went into hibernation, but today he said no. He is working on, other projects. But on a serious note, many thanks, Mr. Almame, for joining me on today's show.
Thank you very much, Mr. Marina. God bless. God bless.
Thank you.
Tune into the final take with MK Marina every Saturday on the Alcamba Times and experience extensive conversations on a variety of topics, including national and international headlines, breaking issues, and major developments in politics, business, innovation, science, and sports, along with inspiring stories and expert analysis to provide a comprehensive understanding of the news.